And I want everybody to understand that we have not seen any immediate intelligence about threats to the homeland from ISIL. That's not what this is about. What it's about is an organization that, if allowed to control significant amounts of territory, to amass more resources, more arms, to attract more foreign fighters, including from areas like Europe, who have Europeans who have visas and then can travel to the United States unimpeded, that over time that can be a serious threat to the homeland.
All right. Meanwhile, that contradicts what many in his administration have said, that they are already a threat to the homeland. Many senators have told me on this show that there's probably already ISIS in this country. Joining us now is the chairman of the Republican National Committee, Reince Priebus. Hello, Mr. Chairman.
Hey, Steve. Thanks for having me on the show. Appreciate that.
No problem. You have an open ticket. You can have that ticket stamped anytime you want. Anyway, all right,
Good,
so Chuck Todd had the sit down with the president. You know, I am so confused. If my head would spin every time there was a mixed message or a contradiction or an inadequate answer on ISIS from this president, my head would just spin off.
Well, you know, there's an old phrase, and I've told this story a while back. You know, trying to get all the answers right in a big, long, multiple choice exam like an ACT or an SAT is really hard to do, but getting them all wrong statistically is actually pretty hard to do too. And the lack of strategy that this president has in regard to ISIS is jaw-dropping. It's dangerous. And add on to all of this, now you had a clip here, the fact that we've now learned that the president was informed of the threat from ISIS for at least a year, and he still can't articulate a plan for how to deal with it. It is an amazingly aloof president who's bizarrely unattached to his daily job. I don't think anyone can figure it out, including a lot of Democrats now.
No, that's absolutely true. And plus, he doesn't have a relationship, from what we hear, with many people, if any, elected officials.
Well, think about this. I don't want to cut you off, but just one other thing. I mean, think about the one time he was definitive in regard to Syria and the red line, right? He had a defining moment, and he retreated on that defining moment. And now he can't define anything. So it is a real tragedy what's going on. And boy, we could sure use some leadership right now. And none of us, even, you know, we are conservative Republicans in fighting in this country. But I got to tell you, nobody here wants to see a weak Republican president. I don't care if he's a Democrat or Barack Obama. People in this country want a strong American president. And he has not been that, and it is not good for this country.
Yeah, you mean American president. I think you said Republican president. You meant American, obviously.
American president.
Yeah. I want to clear that up, because when Media Matters gets a hold of this, they'll quote you on that. Anyway.
No, absolutely.
So let me ask you this. President George Bush in 2007, and we have the soundbite, spelled it out. He said, if we do what some people want to do and get out of there completely, get out of Iraq, we're going to have to send troops back in again, and we're going to face a more dangerous opponent. So the president mocked George Bush about that, purposely, in the view of many, did not want a SOFA agreement with the Iraqis to keep troops there. So Bush was right. The president mocked Mitt Romney in the 2012 campaign about calling Russia our biggest geopolitical foe. So Romney was right there, and Obama was wrong there again. I mean, what a track record.
Well, I mean, I think there's a principle in American politics and the American ideal which Ronald Reagan articulated, which was peace through strength. And we know that a peaceful world requires a strong America. And I think it's sort of a foundational position that I think we can all embrace. And it's hard to run against Obama in theory. In other words, that's basically what we were doing in 2011 and 2012 and 07 and 08. You're running against Obama in theory. Now his policies are in place. His appeasement policies overseas are in place. Obamacare is in place and moving forward. His stimulus is in place now. He can't delay it anymore. People are seeing the effects of Obama's policies both here and abroad. And it's not working. And it's not even just not working. it's tragic. I mean, it's beyond not working. And so I think what this means is a couple things. Number one, we've got to make some big changes in the Senate and around the country here in November. But I also think it means that we need to recommit ourselves to the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and a strong defense. And I think what you're seeing is that, or at least in the polling we're seeing, is that the size of government, the ineffectiveness of government, it is overtaking American society. And I believe that it is an issue that is going to be resonating at the ballot box in November, which is saying a lot, actually, because those are big topics and concepts that a lot of times in polling you don't see them bubbling up to the top because they seem theoretical, but they're really happening and people get it.
Well, let me ask you about November. The president apparently is delaying, admitting he's going to delay his immigration executive order until after the midterms. Even Chuck Todd said to him that, that it stinks, it smells of political games here. Because it'll harm Senate Democratic candidates. What do you make of that move? That open admission now that he's going to wait. If it's so important as he says, if it's harming the economy as he says, shouldn't he have done it yesterday?
Right. Well, first of all, we can at least, as a foundation, we know that what he wanted to do was illegal and unconstitutional, and nobody here at the RNC, me or anybody, supports the president with a pen rewriting laws and usurping powers not granted to him in the Constitution. So I want to get that straight right now. So that's number one. But the issue here is that the president is using Hispanic voters and those that are talking about this pathway to citizenship and amnesty stuff. He is using those folks as political pawns, and it's obvious. He talks on one side of his mouth, he does another, he makes these grand promises and lies to Hispanic voters all over the country. He did it in 07 and 08, and he did it again for the last 5 years. He did it again this summer in grand fashion. Now, lo and behold, he's not going to do it. And, he never had the authority to anyway, but obviously he plays politics with people, their lives and the things they believe in. And it is a joke. And so that's the point. And I think you've commented on this a number of times, and I think people are seeing it across the aisle. Those that agree with the president and those that don't agree with the president are all seeing the same common theme, that he will do and say anything and use whoever he wants politically to get ahead.
All right, one more quickly. Debbie Wasserman Schultz made what many consider to be outrageous remarks, outrageous enough that even she had to apologize, talking about Governor Scott Walker, that basically he was committing violence against women. He's pulling our hair, he's slapping us, pulling us around, whatever she said. Talk about that use of that kind of language, and if it were a Republican, what would have happened in the media?
Oh, believe me, if I would have said something like that, obviously it would have been an absolute forest fire, and people would have gone crazy. And most folks in the media, not you though, Steve, swept this thing under the rug. And it's language, it's incendiary, and it's the type of stuff that I think desperate people say that think they're pushing the envelope cleverly, but then end up setting their own trap because they're not thinking ahead. And the fact is, the next day, after Debbie Wasserman Schultz made this comment, the Wall Street Journal came out with an editorial scathing her for saying these things that are totally inappropriate, defending Scott Walker. So here you have the national chairman coming on the DNC side, coming into Wisconsin, expecting to be helpful, ends up leaving and causing days of problems for the candidate she was trying to help, all because she was so desperate in distorting the truth that she couldn't help herself. Not to mention the fact that she's got candidates out there, one in particular in the Southwest, that actually made a living defending people that abused their own spouses. So
she put her foot in her mouth, but like you said, it would have been a forest fire if a Republican had said it. Hey, Mr. Chairman, always great to talk to you. Thank you for your time, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Reince Priebus, ladies and gentlemen, chairman of the RNC. And we covered a lot of topics in the allotted time. Very interesting conversation. And, you talk about ISIS, and it is jaw-dropping. It is jaw-dropping. I mean, if you listen to what the president said to Chuck Todd, and I'm not a big fan, I understand, I'm not a big fan of telling the enemy exactly what we're going to do. And you could bet that as much as Obama is capable of laying out exactly what we're going to do, because it'll change the next day, he's going to do that in his little speech on Wednesday when he informs us all about what action we're going to take against ISIS. Okay, folks, we're coming back right here. More ahead. It's called Gimme 5. Don't miss it.